Well, a classic re-released in 2019, I don't think even then it was too much of a stretch of the imagination to see us reaching TBC and certainly Wrath of the Lich King one day. After all, those were both part of the original trilogy of the versions of the game which people remembered so well. Now, here we are progressing well through Cataclysm, and for a lot of us, we're kind of wondering how far this classic thing is really going to go. How many expansions will they put out? Because Cataclysm, whatever you think of it right now, was the...
What comes next? Mr. Pandaria, give it 12 months. Give it 12 months. We will be, I mean, not we. I'm sure a lot of you guys won't. I won't, but people will be. Some people, I'm sure, if they qualify as people, they will be playing classic Mists of Pandaria. They will be doing it. It's going to be happening within 12 months.
The first expansion, which, at least back in the day, wasn't seen as a hit success. But then again, it's familiar ground we need to get over to get onto the content beyond it. And it does seem that if the people want it, Blizzard are only too happy to oblige, and they're gonna push out servers which emulate how things used to be during that expansion on its final patch. Also worth a mention is that Blizzard have been very vocal about an accelerated content cadence in Cataclysm, and we all know what happens after Cata, Mists of Pandaria.
So I guess like within the last 2 days, another phase 2 of Cata came out. Phase 2 of Cata came out within the last couple days. I didn't even know that. I saw some streamer streaming it, and I'm like, yo, what? This came out? There was no hype, there was no news, there was nothing about it. It just like came out, okay.
And I think if you're a mop enjoyer, present or past, around pretty much where we're at right now, we'll be heading off once again to Pandaria. So this is why I reckon within about the space of a year, we are going to be a Mr. Pandaria classic. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor, Boot.dev. Boot.dev is a platform that aims to equip you with the skills to forge a career in back-end development through interactive lessons and learning. Where it's unique is that it tracks progress much like an RPG with goals, leaderboards, and experience. Boot.dev offers self-motivated individuals that...
Yeah, I started using boot.dev, and within about 3 months, I was able to hack several foreign governments. I'm not going to say which ones, and I have, using my boot.dev skills, I have extorted several hundred Bitcoin out of various foreign governments.
Tools to get fully on board with the Python and Go programming languages, and it does this through hands-on learning, where you're going to be writing tons of your own code so that you can get a grasp of the fundamentals from the basics to more advanced lessons. And Boot has all the tools you'll need to understand what you're doing and exactly why through their interactive learning, as well as having an AI helper. On top of that, all the content is free to view and watch in guest mode, and there's even a 30-day no questions asked refund policy. So even if you're just interested in checking out how Boot works and want to see more before you know if it's for you, there is very much the option to do that. It can be a career with tons of potential and great earnings, and you could start today at your own pace. You can click the link in the description. And
what are the odds that within 5 years, I'm not trying to be negative, I'm really sincerely asking this, within 5 to 10 years, is there going to be like a coding collapse? Meaning, are 95% of coders going to be put out of work because AI is able to do everything that they've been doing? That's something I have no idea. I really don't know.
Use my code WillE to get 25% off your first payment for Boot.dev. That'll be 25% your first month or your first year, depending on the subscription that you choose. Many thanks to Boot.dev for the sponsor today. Let's get back to WoW. First of all, you should know Blizzard have not confirmed they're going to be doing Mr. Pandaria at all yet. At this point in time, this is speculation that they will end up progressing us beyond Cata. But let me tell you something, if they're doing Cataclysm, they're gonna do Mr. Pandaria.
I think so.
People were already calling TBC the Wrath of the Lich King waiting room when that was out, and I think Cata is kinda the same deal for a lot of people. Beyond Mr. Pandaria, yeah, things maybe get a bit more uncertain.
Okay, real quick in the chat. Do you think Classic Mop will be more popular than Classic Cata? Yes or no? Classic Mop will be more popular than Classic Cata. Yes or no? I think, like, probably yeah. And there's something you need to understand about the rollout of these further versions of Classic WoW, Mists, Cata, WoD, Legion. you need to understand something. And this is Blizzard totally acknowledges this because they've been doing this, what I'm about to tell you. The further they get into this classic series of re-releasing old versions of WoW, Kata, Mop, Warlords, they can monetize these versions more heavily as they progress through them, okay? The degree to which they monetize TBC is more than the degree to which they monetize Classic Vanilla. They know the Classic Vanilla community is against in-game microtransactions, monetizations. Vanilla people don't like that. So the further they get away from vanilla, and you'll notice this is true. Look at the stuff they're selling. They're in Classic Mop. They're selling cosmetics. They're selling more things in-game. They're probably selling mounts in-game. As they've done in Kata, they're selling boosts already, all types of stuff. And so, like, the type of person that is down to play Mists of Pandaria, Classic, doesn't really care about microtransactions in the game. Those people don't really give a shit. And so Blizzard says, oh, wow, we can make more money here. There's a money-making opportunity here that wasn't necessarily there for Classic Vanilla 2019.
WoD Classic, that's a bit of a hard sell, but at least Mists of Pandaria, I think, is a given. We have also been revisiting expansions faster than the pace at which they came out in the first place, because I mean, we can. Unlike how it was at the end of Wrath or Kata or Mists of Pandaria, we aren't going to have to wait up to, or in one case, over a year before the next big thing releases. As for Kata right now, well, things are very much underway. Blizzard even gave us a roadmap pre-release to give us an idea for when major patches will be dropping. The release of Kata was the 20th of May this year, and Phase 2 is noted down for July, and we now know it will be dropping on July 30th. So they're just about sticking to the phase schedule here, and then later we'll have the Firelands in October and Dragon Soul in January of 2025.
Okay, Firelands in October, Dragon Soul. Okay.
To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised to see Firelands come in early October, if not even maybe sooner than that. Phase 2 of Kata really isn't.
A lot of people say Firelands is one of the best raids ever made. Chat, do you guys really like Firelands? At this point in Kata back in the day, I wasn't playing, so I never did Firelands when it was current content. Everyone, you guys are all saying no. Everyone's saying no. What the hell? I thought it was one of the best raids ever. No? Okay, whatever.
All that much extra content to add to what we already have. The major points are the catch-up item level.
You know what they should do? Dude. Heroic Ragnaros, Firelands, Classic Cataclysm. Ragnaros comes out, you kill him, he's got legs. Ah, he's got legs. You defeat him, the hardest boss in the game, Heroic Ragnaros. After you kill him, guess what? There's a bonus boss. You know what it is? It's called the Molten Core, and it's a big fiery blob. And it's going to be awesome. That would be cool.
Points are the catch-up item level 353 gear from the revamped Zul'Aman and Zul'Gurub dungeons. But if you've been raiding pretty much at all, the main benefits are going to be some new mounts, a decent caster wand if you didn't feel like forking out all that gold for the BOE, and Maelstrom crystals should drop in price pretty heavily because all the new bosses are going to drop epics which can be disenchanted into them. Okay. Other than that, Blizzard has been quiet on any other news or updates to the game. Are we getting a Titan Rune dungeon system in Kata at all? Will the old versions of ZG and ZA remain available to players just how the old version of Onyxia is still in the game? Or is the patch just gonna be here's 2 dungeons which are good for alts? I mean, I always enjoyed the troll themed dungeons or raids, but it's not really much content to go off, to be honest.
Zul'Aman is the single best raid of all time. And I'm not kidding either. I'm not kidding. I'm being totally serious. Zul'Aman is the goated raid. It's better than any other raid ever in the history of this game.
Anyways, after that, if we're sticking to the roadmap, Firelands in October. That is a 7-boss raid and the Molten Front dailies to progress the zone, get a bunch of collectibles, all that kind of stuff. I'm looking forwards to Firelands a lot, especially taking...
Karazhan? Really? Karazhan is the single worst raid of all time. It's embarrassing you would even mention that raid. Kara is the single worst raid in 20 years of World of Warcraft. It is the absolute worst. Zolaman is the best. There you have it.
On Heroic Ragnaros with his legendary difficulty, though we'll have to see if they change his tuning much. People often say about Firelands that it's a 7-boss raid as though it's a bad thing, but I don't know. The Sunwell was a short raid and it remains one of my favourite raid tiers throughout Classic so far. Once you get the bosses down, you all know the mechanics, it's a quick blast through the raids for tons of rewards. Oh, and also we get the legendary staff in Firelands too, don't forget about that if you're a caster, and I can see them speeding up how fast you can get this too, just as how they've done with...
There was like 1 week at the end of Classic Wrath where I was thinking, man, dude, I gotta get Dragon Wrath, Tarek Ghost's Rest on my Warlock. I gotta get that, dude. It's a legendary staff. It's super good. And now I'm just like, dude, I just don't. In order to get the legendary staff, I would have to play Classic Cataclysm. I would have to log in and raid and be part of a guild for months. I'd probably have to make my own guild, because who's gonna, you know, it's like, ugh. No, who cares? No.
Shadowmourne to fit the faster content cadence of the expansion. After that, we'll have Dragon Soul in January of 2025, another relatively short raid tier, and one that definitely gets rated on the low end by a lot of people. Not gonna lie though, with how class is playing Cataclysm, which for me have been really good so far, and having a lot of interesting tier set bonuses,
I think... Yeah, this raid here is going to do worse. This performance here will be even lower than the end of SOD Phase 3. Like this will kill the game. Though they will do MOP. They're going to bring it back with MOP.
I'm not expecting it to be as bad as people made it out to be, but we'll see when we get there. Also, there's 3 new heroics too, the End Time, Well of Eternity, and the Hour of Twilight. The big question is, for Dragon Soul, will Blizzard re-enable LFR? I guess it's going to depend on how raid participation's looking from there.
If they reintroduce LFR, I will come back and play Kata. I will become an LFR raider. And I will stream every day. I'll do LFR raids, and it will be an absolute shit show. I'll be playing with the dumbest people alive, and it's gonna be really funny. It will be funny. It'll be hilarious. Dude, I'm surprised in the retail WoW streamer community that you don't have LFR streamers. Because I actually think LFR raids are so fun and they're so funny. And by the way, they're not good for the game. Okay, they're not good for vanilla WoW. I'm not saying like they should add them to vanilla, but in retail, they are hilarious. And they're hilarious because the people you're playing with are just so stupid. They're just so bad. And so being in that raid as a streamer, like it is content. It's so funny just to watch other people just suck. It's so funny.
And no one did end up putting Dungeon Finder back in the game by the end of Wrath, so I'm really not sure whether or not they'll do it. That'll be Dragon Soul. We'll have that for about 3 or 4 months, and by that time it will be around the time for the beta for Mr. Pandaria Classic. So by then we'll be somewhere around April to May 2025, but how long will the beta go on? Let's take a look back at Kata. The beta for that started on the 7th of March, and it was 1 week short of 2 months in duration. So the pre-patch would then begin on the 30th of April, and the launch was a further 3 weeks later on the 20th of May. So from closed beta to launch include...
MOP had the best class design in history, same with PvP, and the raids are good, Throne of Thunder. Listen, no one gives a shit about class design. No one gives a shit about class balance. No one gives a shit about dungeons. No one gives a shit about PvP. No one gives a shit about raids. You know what people care about? The world. People care about the world immersion. People care about the immersive RPG adventure. That's what people care about. That's what Vanilla WoW has that no other version of this game has. Does MOP have the world? No. Vanilla WoW has the world. All those things you mentioned, what class balance, PvP, BGs, arenas, These are little mini games. Those are mini games. That's the proper way to look at those things. Those are little micro mini games, okay? Outside of that though, how else do you spend 90 or 95% of your time? You're in the world. You're adventuring around the world. Vanilla WoW has that. No other version of this game has that. The world of Warcraft, okay? You're talking MOP, you're talking the instances of Warcraft. You're talking the instances of Warcraft. but look at this instance. But look at that instance. Yeah, I'm saying, what about the world? Where's the world? You don't have it. Vanilla WoW has it. And that's what I'm talking about.
Including the pre-patch, we're talking 74 days, we'll just call that 2.5 months, and if we discount the pre-patch, we're talking 54 days. I would count pre-patch as part of the hype of the expansion, to be honest. We're going to get all the class changes, and I think we're going to get Pandaren and Monk 2 in the pre-patch. If we look back, we have Blood Elf and Draenei in TBC in the pre-patch, Death Knights in Wrath in the pre-patch, Goblin and Worgen in Kata in the pre-patch, so if you're a big Monk enjoyer, I reckon you'll be getting that in the pre-patch too.
You think you do, but you don't brap.
So we're going to say the beta for Mock Classic starts mid-April or early May. 2 months of beta would take us into June or July, and then a 2 to 3 week pre-patch for release would take us to, well, pretty close to where we are now actually, if not just a little bit earlier. So realistically, if you are in the Mists of Pandaria waiting room, I reckon that's about how long you'll have left to wait. I think Blizzard, or should I say I hope they'll put a bit more effort into Mists of Pandaria compared to Kata 2, especially in terms of bugs. I don't know what will be happening seasonal server wise at that point in time, and they may not have to compete between two different server types where they're swapping between everything all the time. But the Kata pre-patch, honestly...
I'm going to tell you something, man. People have been talking a lot about Classic Plus lately. If we are to ever get Classic Plus, the people working on Classic Plus cannot also be the same people that are maintaining Classic WoD or Classic Legion and operating the beta for Classic Legion and the PTR for Classic Legion and whatever else. It has to be the point is, it has to be a dedicated team. Classic Plus has to be a dedicated wham, a dedicated team. Okay, these people, their only function is maintaining Classic Plus, creating Classic Plus. That's how it has to be. Okay, this whole approach, if we have the Classic team and they're trying to do 4 things at once, they're trying to have the PTR for Classic Kata and get Kata out the door and doing all the Kata bug fixes, and they're working on the hardcore servers and the Classic Era servers and the SOD Phase 3, wrapping up Phase 3 going into Phase 4, like all of that stuff. Rather than having, what has that resulted in? Rather than having one good product, they've got 4 shit products with bugs and problems and instability, okay? It's better, seriously, if it has to be one or the other, I'd rather have one good product than... It's like I'm sure your guy's grandfather used to say something like this, you know, it's better to whole-ass one thing than half-ass 2 things, okay? It's the truth. It's the truth.
Released an
If you're going to do something, you need to make sure you at least try to do it right.
a pretty embarrassing state. I'm not sure if you remember it. You could see abilities on your professions tab, and there was just a lot of different things. There still are some bugs for that matter as well. I don't know if anything truly game-breaking was pushed to live, but it just makes it feel as though the effort hasn't been put in when you log in and you see a basic error straight away. And the reason I think or hope they'll put a bit more effort into Mists of Pandaria is that, well, it was a bit of a funny one back in the day. People really didn't give it a chance, and a huge reason why was simply pandas. Even Ghostcrawler said retrospectively after he left Blizzard that he thought they overestimated how much people enjoyed the Pandarans being in the game.
I loved Mop, but I think we overestimated how many people loved Pandaren. Yeah. No one likes them. Yeah, no one likes them.
But nowadays, people look back to Mr. Pandaria and generally agree, yeah, this was a pretty good...
Wrong. You think you do, but you don't. Seriously, now we're talking Classic Mop. Listen, you think you do, but you don't. And by the way, I know that I'm going to be right. I know that I'm going to be vindicated because we're going to have the Warcraft logs. We're going to have the Ironforge.pro Warcraft logs participation numbers, and it's going to be low. Just like Kata is low. Kata, how's Kata doing? It's not doing that well. I think, listen, this is actually a pretty big discussion. As a consequence of private servers, we knew for a long time that there was a huge vanilla WoW community, people that wanted vanilla WoW. I don't know if we see that same mop community. What I think you do see, you see a bunch of retail players, and this is fine. You see retail players that look back and they say, man, Mop was good. I think a lot of people that enjoy retail now started in Mop. So for a lot of people, Mop was like for a lot of retail players, Mop is kind of like their vanilla. Okay, it's their starting point. And so I think you actually do have, I'm going to use the N word here. I'm going to say it. Normally I only say it in private, but I'm going to say it right now in public today. Nostalgia. I think there's a lot of Mists of Pandaria nostalgia, but there's a difference between saying, man, dude, Mop was good. There's a difference between that and actually logging in every day, playing it, participating, being part of a raiding guild, etc. And I don't think that's going to happen in really substantial numbers. I think it'll be less than the current Kata player base, which is really not that resounding. I think it'll be less than Kata. But hey, we got to see. Clip this. I'll come back. Prove me wrong. We'll see. We'll
Good
see.
expansion, actually. Sure, the talent system might have changed to where you get 1 per 15 levels and they're in 3 rows, but I remember overall class design being a very strong point. There was a lot of great raiding content. Speaking of this, they changed Siege of Orgrimmar to be the first official mythic raid with the Warlords of Draenor pre-patch. I wonder if they'd adopt this format for earlier raids, or will just stick to the regular, normal, and heroics. People also rate the PvP in Mists of Pandaria a lot as well.
I don't understand you can continue to say these game modes are dead when they are more populated than Era. Both Kata and Sod are at least double Era numbers. So if you want to talk about that dynamic there, first off, they're not dead, but fewer people are playing them than... You might notice, Classic Vanilla was the peak, TBC a little bit less, Wrath, and now we're with Kata, it's the lowest it's been. In the last 5 years of Classic content, Kata's the least popular. That's just a fact, right? And I think that trend will continue into Mop if Mop comes out. So it's not dead, it's less popular, okay? Predictably less popular if you look at the participation charts. And if you want to compare it to Classic Era, yeah, no one is saying Classic Era is the most popular thing in the world. Classic Era servers are 5-year-old servers. They're not multiphasic. All the content is already there, and everyone's running around in full tier 3 gear and rank 14 gear, okay? So the thing that people love about vanilla, that progression, that working through all of the phases, okay, alongside everyone else on the server, you don't have that. So yeah, so no shit that Classic Era is not like insanely popular. What I will say is that Classic Era is more popular than I would expect it to be, given that it's on the final phase, and half the people have tier 3, and there's GDKPs and economic inflation out. Like, bro, I'm thinking about how, like, to what degree is the economy inflated on the white main server? Probably times 5. Everything. I mean, it kind of depends on the individual item, but on average, probably 5 times more expensive than it ought to be on a regular progressive vanilla server. So anyway, you think times 10. Some people in chat are saying times 10. Classic Era is not ideal if you're a classic lover, if you're a vanilla player, okay? But guess what? People are playing there despite those problems. And there are very real, very serious, very annoying problems on Classic Era, and people still play there despite those issues, okay? So that's the whole context of the conversation, right?
Well, from what I hear, and especially above all, the end game just opens up so much beyond just raid and PvP. You've got challenge mode, brawlers guild, pet battles. Pet battles are great content, okay? I don't care what anyone says. A ton more collection stuff, the Isle of Thunder and the Timeless Isle. So if you find yourself finishing your raid, there'll probably be something else you can work towards. But we're going to have plenty more time to talk about Mists of Pandaria in the future, though. I wonder what will happen after that. A quick sub 1 year WOD into Legion. Imagine the announcement at BlizzCon when someone has to get on the stage and announce Warlords of Draenor Classic. Wouldn't like to be them for that. But after that, who knows? Do we want to do the 1-2 punch of...
You know what they should do? Whenever they announce Warlords of Draenor Classic 2 years from now, they should have JL and Brat come back. He was the president for a year. They fired him amidst all of that, like, California state sexual harassment lawsuit stuff. They should bring him back and have him announce WoD Classic. That would be hilarious. That would be so funny.
BFA in Shadowlands again? Yeah, maybe, maybe not. It's hard to say, but in any event, we're replaying expansions at a much faster rate than what they released originally, so at some point, something has to happen. If only there was a permanent version of Classic with a sort of plus at the end, which was continually ongoing, so we didn't have to worry about this. Anyways, Mr. Pandaria, about 1 year from now, that's my prediction. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think I'm about on the money in terms of timing? And what do you hope to see from the future of Classic in terms of expansions? And, as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you all on the next one very soon.
Let's go. Let's go. All right, excellent WillE video. Thank you, WillE. Thank you, WillE. No, like, it always blows my mind when I say something. So what I said was that Classic Mop will be the least popular version of all the versions of Classic WoW we've had. And, like, I don't know why that is controversial or surprising or really even up for debate, right? If you look at the ironforge.pro trend, it's going down. If you look at the Google Trends search analytics for YouTube and Google, it's going down. If you look at player participation from the old subscriber numbers they released back in the day, it was going down. It's like, yeah. Most certainly Mop will be the least popular version of Classic to date. Yeah, and by the way, I still think they're going to do it. I still think they will do it, but yeah. It's going to be, it'll be the least popular, and then WoD will be even less popular. I think the only thing that might kind of make that number come back up could be Classic Legion, maybe? Maybe Classic Legion would be a little bit of a bounce back. I don't know. That's 4, 5, 6 years from now. Who the hell knows? But anyway, yeah, I think that's probably the case.